Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Bit happier start than the last video, despite the fact that we are now in the post-Harry Kane era at Tottenham Hotspur. It's probably because we're also in the Ange Postecoglou era officially with Tottenham Hotspur, because we've now had the first Premier League game of the Australians' tenure. And you know what? There were enough positives in there. There's a lot of stuff to still improve on, and he admitted that himself. But I quite enjoyed, again, another Tottenham Hotspur match. This is becoming unnerving, quite strange. I'm not used to watching so many Spurs games in a row and enjoying the experience. It's very, very weird. But there it is. And it all started very differently. I don't know if you've seen yet, but we, Guesty and I were sat next to each other watching it. We just like, ooh, what are they doing here? And what happened was, after the new Tottenham Hotspur captain, 손흥민이, did the stuff with the referee and the other captain in the middle, he went off with James Maddison, who'd gathered the rest of the squad, and they headed off over to travelling fans, applauded them all, and then did their huddle in front of them. And it would have been absolutely perfect, because it got a great reaction from the Spurs travelling fans, who were brilliant once again. And they were singing Postecoglou's name. It was such a lovely moment. Then we got this weird 6-minute delay to kick off, which was actually because, for some unknown reason, there was no water suddenly in the stadium. Just all access to water got cut off. I don't know whether they hadn't paid a bill. I'm sure they had. But it was very strange. And the game there was a kind of an announcement over the tannoy about sanitation and everything, obviously because none of the toilets could be used. I think it was more to do with health and safety in the aspect of, you can't, let's say there was touch wood, it never happens. I've got some wood, I've got a cardboard box. And it's a bit weird when your hands can't be seen saying touch wood. That, if there was a fire, there's no water. There's no way to put it out. Sprinkler systems presumably wouldn't work either. So, yeah, there was this kind of weird mini delay, and that in itself, I think, just knocked a little bit of impetus of what was a really nice idea. And I know there was loads of Celtic fans. Various journalists put out little photos of it, including myself, describing what was happening. And various Celtic supporters, understandably, came on Twitter and was saying, oh, this is a Celtic thing. It's always happened. So Andrew's just nicked it and brought it across. It wasn't him. It was Sonny. Guesty did an interview with James Maddison after the match, and Madders told him that Sonny texted him the night before and suggested it as an idea, that's something that they could do to kind of repay the fans and really start connecting, I guess, again with them. And it was a brilliant idea. It did. It really, really worked. And yeah, Postecoglou was very clear to say it was not his idea. He said, and a decent point. And obviously with all the Harry Kane saga in the week as well, everyone was still gelling. The defence is still gelling. Even the front three, Guesty and I were trying to work it out. I don't think Kulusevski, Richarlison and Son have played together in the Postecoglou system yet. I'm pretty sure in pre-season, unless they've had a bare minute or two or something, I don't think they've ever been in the same halves of football at the same time, all three of them together, obviously because of Kane playing. And again, that's another thing we're going to talk about later on in this, don't worry. So up front, let's talk about the attack. Richarlison. I mean, all eyes were going to be, of course, on the fact that Harry Kane was no longer there and how that would affect the attack. As I said earlier in this, it's still such early days for the attack. These are players that have got I know they played together last season, but in a very different system. The Postecoglou way is so different. If Kane had said from day one that he wanted to go, that he could have played Richarlison throughout the friendlies, but I think it probably would have massively weakened Spurs' position. And also, they weren't guaranteed that Kane was going to go. Kane had a proper wobble, apparently, on Thursday about whether he was going to go or not. Presumably just because of timing, I guess family reasons maybe. And even, with Spurs, there was, I think I said it in the last video, by the end of Thursday, it was not guaranteed at all that he was definitely going to be heading off. I'm trying to think when I did the last video now. Was it Friday night? But God, time flies in the Spurs world. I don't think he'd actually been officially. I think I remember doing the video and saying that I'd just watched him go for his medical and how upsetting it was. But yeah, certainly on Thursday night, there was no guarantee that he was going at all. So if that's the case, then you kind of need Harry Kane getting minutes here and there as well. And what I would say is, if you'd have made it very clear that Harry Kane was leaving, Spurs would not have got the £100 million rising to £120 million. And, you know, who knows, they could have got £30-40 million less, because Bayern would have known they were in such a strong position. And that £30 to £40 million could be another big player. You know, that's the amount that that's the amount, I don't know what to say like that. That's the amount they spent on Maddison. That's the amount they spent on Van de Ven. Slightly more out of sync with Kulusevski and Son for a game or two. I think that's fine. I think that's something we just have to accept. He did look rusty. He had joint fewest touches of any starting player, 34 on the pitch. Just one shot on target. He doesn't have the ability to come deep like Kane does. He'll come back and he can hold up the ball. There was one moment he held it up really well. Actually, it reminds me, he did this lovely turn on the edge of the box that didn't actually end up resulting in anything, but it was a lovely little move. But yeah, so when he's out of the game, he doesn't have that ability to come deep, link up play and be part of it. But then that's kind of not what Postecoglou wants anyway. So I guess it kind of works in that regard as well. I was trying to think of the chances he had. Maddison had a decent little link up with him. A couple of times he put him through, teed up. He had one shot where he ran through, kind of hit it on the slide and the keeper pushed it out. He had another one where the shot blocked in the box. And there were a couple of times when Maddison played little through balls that were just too far ahead of Richarlison. I think Sonny and Kulusevski didn't particularly link up with him very well. Kulusevski had a funny game, but one of those where he flattered to deceive but didn't really make a huge impact. Sonny, difficult one. Sonny obviously had the penalty incident, which was the softest penalty I've maybe seen given a long time. But I think when you're watching it back on VAR, you can see a foot hitting a foot in the penalty area. And I think, unfortunately, that's why it's given. Do I think that was strong enough to knock a player on the floor? Absolutely not. He went down like he was shot in the foot, let alone just had a foot tap it. But with Sonny, he had a couple of chances at the back post, didn't he? Yeah, I mean, again, he's getting used to this role in this system. I'd still like to see him and Richarlison switch it up more, and sometimes Richarlison going wide and Sonny playing as a central striker. And Postecoglou said that is a role that he could well use him in, going through the middle. I think for Sonny, because of the fact that I said before that they put more low balls into the box rather than high crosses, I think for Sonny, I think Postecoglou said this pretty much, that he actually might not have suited being a central striker for other managers, but for Postecoglou it could work really well. This is a guy that's Golden Boot winner. You know, I still think we've dismissed Sonny as the central striker too easily for Richarlison.